Live. You know what time it is, Jamal?
What time is it?
Time for a market measure. No music? Oh, okay.
We don't have no fancy. I know, right? What's up? I mean, wow. So anticlimactic.
I was expecting something there. You know, if you can measure risk. Thank you. You can trade any market if you can measure the risk, Jamal. That's what we're told.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. So when a trading philosophy is based on statistics and probability, a core tenet of your trading approach is going to be product indifference. We talk about ticker agnosticism, Jamal. The same thing comes in options, not just in technical analysis. Product indifference means discounting nearly all notions of the fundamentals of the underlying product you're trading and instead focusing on constructing a trade based on the risk that is given to you by that market.
I will say, I do like this idea. This is something that I've really leaned into being at Tasty. That said, and I think both of us can agree on this, it really does depend. Sometimes things change, you know, vis-a-vis what we saw with silver and gold more recently, even with oil more recently. So sometimes you adjust. But product indifference in general is a really good thing.
We can go to the next slide here. When we make a trade based on product indifference, we're making a choice that's fairly easy, straightforward to understand. We are trying to choose something that fits a particular profile. The ticker could be XYZ, ABC, it could be futures, it could be spot FX. If it fits the profile, we want to trade it. So we talk about options here. You can compare the risk of the underlyings by comparing their IV adjusted notional values. That's IV as a percentage times the price times the multiplier. And obviously that changes from product to product, Jamal. You need to take into account the different product sizes. If it's SPY versus ES, you're going to have a different sort of risk profile. On to the next slide. Mm-hmm. Let's do a little bit of a study here. Consider the following data from 2020 to 2026 and the following symbols. These are some of the major futures tickers here: ES, CL, GC, SI, NG, ZB, and 6J. That's S&P, crude, gold, silver, natural gas, bonds, and the yen. So these are all broad range. We're covering everything. We're looking at equities. We're looking at bonds, metals, energy. The only futures category that's not really touched on here is agriculture, soft ag, wheats, corn, what have you. But to compare that, we're going to take a look at the IV adjusted notional of each future symbol and the risk of each by comparing their IV adjusted notional values. So we go to the next slide, and starting with the period from 2020 to today, 2026, we analyze how prices and applied volatility have evolved. What stands out to you here, Jamal, in terms of what's the biggest mover on this?
ZB, no. Obviously silver, massive move in silver. And again, it's an interesting range that we chose. We chose a 6-year period. Usually we do these studies, it's like 15 plus years. It's a smaller, more concentrated period, arguably one of the higher volatility periods of the last 25 years.
And I've seen some people, and I've had this chat back and forth with folks, not just on network and in the chat, so to speak, but outside professionally, in the context of seasonality, right? It's important to have a big data size. You want a good sample size. The bigger, the better in some regards, right? 30 years, N equals 30 is typically the baseline for statistical reliability. But the market also goes through regime changes. And so if you do a 20-year seasonality, you're going to get the global financial crisis. But does what happened in 2007 and 2008 really matter as much as what's happened more recently? The market structure has changed significantly. Do you really pay attention to anything pre-COVID anymore? Is that just from a different era? So I hear the whole statistical imperative of having a bigger sample size than just 5 or 6 years. But the way that the market has traded post-COVID is unique relative to other periods in history.
Yeah, and I would, to piggyback on that, I would also say it really depends on what kind of trade you're talking about. I mean, if you're talking about a long-term trade, the idea of the market only goes up, I mean, it ignores something like 2008, right? And it should. Versus if you're talking about options, volatility, and trading, you might want to break those down into different sectors and different regimes, because there are different things that happen at those times. And again, we're not usually trading leaps. We're usually trading something within a monthly or month, 6 weeks or something like that.
So it's not just silver with the most significant change in prices from January 2020 onwards. It's up 286%, gold up 196 compared to stocks, S&P 500 only being up 96%. They also share that volatility change as well. You can see, Jamal, on that second graph, the bottom panel there, gold vol up over this period 189%, silver 125% here. But we need to make the adjustments now, right? We're talking about making the IV adjusted notional values for these futures products. We can go to the next slide here.
If we have does that stand out to you though? That oil vol that has come in 28% over that 6 year time period? That stands out.
That does stand out. Yes, it does. Particularly because of everything that's happened. Oil prices were negative, Russia, Ukraine war, Iran war, the various missile strikes along the way. So let's just take a step back here. What's the IV adjusted notional value for each of these products? Jamal, when we take the price, the multiplier, and the IV, you could see how this broadens out and changes dramatically. Gold and silver have had far and away the largest IV adjusted notional value changes during this time period. When you look at something like the yen, though, it's the price is small, the multiplier, given that it's a yen denominated product, and the IV where it is, you could see that it's not exactly something that's considered a great deal of risk. The risk has been in the precious metals, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the larger products in the world, the S&P 500. So it's all been inside of those. Not what you would think, right? You would think probably more. I mean, definitely in the gold and silver. Probably wouldn't think as much in the S&P. Probably think a little bit more natural gas, but this is fascinating.
So when we take these IV adjusted notional values, we're comparing one to another to figure out how risky one product is compared to another. And so think about the last slide, for example. You have a position in silver carrying about 22.5 times the risk that the same position does in the yen. Because if you go to the next slide, right, anchoring this as, say, to silver as the baseline here, silver being the risk ratio around silver is 1-to-1. You look at that adjusted notional value, it's 22.56 times than what it is for the yen. Trading silver, 1.98 times the risk versus trading the S&P 500, 12 times the risk as trading bonds here. And so when you get yourself into product selection right now, being product agnostic, you also have to consider the risk. If you can measure the risk, you can figure out a way to trade the market. So Jamal, looking at that here, do you think that it's worth even trading silver at this point in time? And I think that maybe the number here on the S&P 500 is off. We're going to fix that in post.
I would say it's worth trading. I mean, but I've been short vol in SLV, so it just really depends on how you're trading it, right? We were talking about finding the right trade for the portfolio and what works. For me, the SLV short vol play has worked. Short strangle has worked. Directionally, a lot tougher.
So why are you doing this then? Why do even bother trading? Multiple underlyings at all if the risk is fully determined by the IV adjusted notional. Well, one, looking at this, you can help mitigate outlier risk in your portfolio. Two, you can mitigate day-to-day risk via diversification. If correlations are low and you're adding a new trade to your basket, right? Does this bring down the overall correlation of my portfolio? If it does, then maybe it's something you should do. It's also worth having a slew of different strategies, positions, directional assumptions, time frame assumptions baked into the cake, right? You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, but that means not just all high volatility, it's also low volatility. And that brings you to the fourth point, which is fun is on there, but it keeps you engaged and aware of what's happening in the market and how different events impact different types of products and different type of regime, or rather say volatility regimes within those products. And it gives you that market awareness that as a trader, I think you need to build up that library in your head over time of how markets respond to certain things. And you can only do that when you have skin in the game. Paper trading is not going to cut it after a while. You need to build up that muscle memory of what high and low IV trades work and don't work in the various market conditions, Jamal, to be successful over time.
I agree. A lot of times we talk about correlations of different things that are happening in the market. And usually if you have on positions like these we're talking here, you have some metals on, you have some equities on, you have a currency on, you kind of see those correlations as they're happening anyway.
So an important note is that the actual IV adjusted notional value should be compared, and we can go to the next slide. It should be compared to another IV adjusted notional value as opposed to a single standalone metric. The comparison of risk is definite, not conditional, because even if the euros have a huge outlier move and natural gas does nothing, that doesn't mean that the risk was mispriced at the time of the trade.
Agree.
Last slide. Last slide. So what are your takeaways here? When you're comparing IV adjusted notional values, the idea here is that you're comparing the pure risk between the underlyings regardless of the fundamentals of the underlyings. You're not worried about earnings or inflation or the latest jobs report. We're just looking at the risk that the market is providing us. And IV adjusted notional values are easily calculated by multiplying notional value by IV, as we showed in those previous slides, Jamal. You have to know what you're getting into, right? Trading the yen is not the same thing as trading silver, even if the IVRs in the platform may look the same.
Yeah, newsflash. Some things a little bit more risky than others, but it all depends on the time period. And I think it's a very interesting time period we just compared.